Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. We appreciate it. That begins at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. We're so happy to be part of several different avenues since Linda came in with us last. So we are still on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. The biggest country station in South Carolina. We're with WZLA. They're actually on the radio. A lot of you folks in Alabama have been listening to them because I was listening to them before we even moved to South Carolina, because I just wanted to get a good idea of what the area was like. And that's the best thing to do. Find a station that you really believe in, and these folks are it. Make sure you listen to Benji and Lacey in the mornings, because he tells it exactly like it is. And we definitely appreciate them doing that. Also back on Channel 182 on Charter Communications in Alabama. We appreciate that move as well. Continue watching us on all the social media sites. We're just all over the place. Linda, you can't get away from us if you ever tried. Well, if we're on a liberal station, maybe. But anyway, we're still with you getting that word out, because truth definitely does matter. Speaking of which, I have Linda Hansen with me right now. If you want to find out the truth of something, listen to Linda. That's why we'd love to have her as a guest on the show. Some new folks are listening, a lot of new folks. So, Linda, let's start with your background and what got you to where you're at right now.
Well, that's a long story, but thank you, Donna. It's always a pleasure to be here. I know it's been a couple months, and I'm really grateful to be back. Thank you for your patience while I dealt with some health issues, and just really grateful to be back on the show. So thank you. For your new listeners, welcome, and congratulations to the growth of the show. But also my background, for anybody out there with a large family, homeschool mom, that was me most of my adult life, homeschool mom. But God also called me to really care and be concerned about policy and politics, and really, a biblical understanding. To the best of my ability, I don't claim to be a scholar, but a biblical understanding of current events and how it all plays in, and how do we walk out our faith in the arena of politics and policy. And so for me, that's what has driven me to policy and politics over time. And so homeschool mom for 30 years plus, and but I do have this like heart's cry to make sure our nation stays free, because I believe if we keep the soil fertile for the gospel here, the soil of freedom, and the soil here where people can have freedom to come to know Jesus, come to express their faith, that is what will help the nations. We see it happening right now across the world. We see it happening, that freedom is spreading, and we see it. And so for many decades, that has been a passion and a calling. I did not do anything full-time with it until really my kids, almost all of them, were out of the house and off on their own adult life. But I am really thankful for the opportunities God has given me over the years. In addition to being involved in politics in Wisconsin and across the country, from everything grassroots, county chair, assistant district chair, working regulatory reform across the country and things. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of being Herman Cain's deputy chief of staff for his presidential campaign. Those of you who have been around for a while, you'll remember Herman Cain. He ran for president in 2012, and his tax plan 999 was wildly popular with conservatives. But for the younger folks, I really encourage you to dig up some of his speeches, listen to him. You will find that America wanted a business leader in the White House, even back then. We knew that we were anti-establishment even back then. But yet his announcement rally was, I believe, the largest political rally ever in American history before Donald Trump's rallies. So there was a movement across 50 states bubbling underground for Herman Cain, this Black conservative from Georgia who just loved America. And it was just an honor and a pleasure to be one of two people. His chief of staff, Mark, and I convinced him to run for president, but then also then to be able to serve in that presidential campaign, but work with him and observe his leadership and his wisdom for years up until his death. We didn't work solely together, but I will say we worked on a lot of different projects together, and that was a really great mentor. I've also really been blessed to have mentorship and friendship with Michael Ferris. I just always like to give credit to him. Dr. Michael Ferris, who, was one of the founders of Homeschool Legal Defense Association. He recently led Alliance Defending Freedom. He founded Patrick Henry College. He also is a senior counsel, I believe, I might have the title wrong, but with National Religious Broadcasters. And he is a constitutional expert, and just his leadership style has been a great mentorship to me too. I was involved early on, one of the earliest members of Concerned Women for America. And, I just would say that I've had a heart for our nation, a heart for young people, mentoring young people. Been involved in everything from pro-life to election integrity to grassroots coalition development, founding think tanks, everything. Now, all of that led up to what you know me from is Prosperity 101, and people can see on the website prosperity101.com. My heart and passion is to get employers to educate employees about the basic principles of policy that affect their jobs. So we start with freedom, introducing them to the basic concepts of freedom. Why do we have it in America? We introduce them to basic, very, very basic policies of economic freedom and personal freedom, and then how to protect that, but by becoming an informed, involved, and impactful citizen. And the reason I focus on employers for this is because we have millions upon millions of young people and middle-aged people, as we see in the streets, supporting socialism, supporting policies that are absolutely opposite of our American ideals. And it's because they have not been taught. They do not understand. And so I tell employers, if you don't tell these people, who will? Because they've come through the kindergartens, the grade schools, the high schools, the colleges, the grad schools, and they still don't understand. They've never been taught how to protect their freedom. Many of them have never even read the Bill of Rights, let alone the Constitution. So I tell employers, give them a taste. Just give them a little bit of an education, and you'll be amazed at what happens from there. And when they realize you care about them, it opens up conversation for so many more things. And for Christian employers, especially, it opens up a relationship for them. So they can pray for these employees and, maybe help support them in other ways too. But in any case, it always helps your bottom line to have engaged employees who understand that you care about them. And so that's one of the ways I try to help reclaim and preserve America, by helping employers educate employees about the issues that affect their jobs. So that's a long story, but that brings you up to today.
I want to thank you for doing that. One of the things you just mentioned is, Christian employers and that kind of thing. There was in the state of Alabama, when I was living there, Judge Roy Moore was in a little bit of trouble about posting the 10 Commandments on there. So a guy that I knew who did not believe in God whatsoever, he was just total atheist. He said, I don't see the point in all that. Why are you in such an uproar? Why did your church go to Montgomery why mess with it? And I said, okay, so you're an atheist. But wouldn't you much rather have employees working for you that believed in thou shalt not steal? Because that's a big issue. You have employees sometimes who will steal from you. Sometimes it's the person you least expect, and they've taken $100,000 out of that trusted accountant who's taken away hundreds of thousands of dollars for you without your knowledge. Wouldn't it just be best to have those types of employees?
Right, exactly. Well, and the Judeo-Christian principles are what have built America.
Mm-hmm.
We are the first nation that said our rights come from God, not from government. Our rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness come from God, not from government. And government's role is to protect those rights, not to give us those rights, because they are already ours. And so, I think we've lost our way in our nation very, very much. And it's evident, but we are reclaiming it. There is a revival happening among young people for sure, where people are coming to Jesus. They're coming back to faith. There is a shift occurring. However, I have seen poll after poll and study after study about how these young people who are coming to the Lord and coming back to, their faith, they're not necessarily coming back to conservative constitutional politics. They may still be in the streets believing in, say, Mamdani in New York, because they've listened to the lies. They do not understand. They've gone through the secular colleges and oftentimes the Christian colleges and things that have really promoted these socialistic ideas. And another thing that happens, especially among believers, is Allie Beth Stuckey describes it as toxic empathy. Where we can be pigeonholed basically into believing or being told we're not good Christians if we believe we should deport illegals. That aren't we supposed to house all the foreigners? Well, no, not if they're here stealing from us or harming us. No, there is, people forget that loving your neighbor also involves wanting your neighbor to live in safety. It's wanting your neighbor to be able to enjoy the benefits of their own hard work. It's loving your neighbor and wanting them to prosper. And to me, prosper means human flourishing and freedom, not just money. And that's what I try to teach, is that it's not just money, but that is really loving your neighbor, wanting them to grow up in safety, in security, wanting their money to be used well. So we see all this fraud. We've seen the Somali fraud in Minnesota. I don't know how much you've talked about it on your show, but the Somali fraud in Minnesota, well, and everywhere. We see the horrendous fraud and unlawfulness of the trucking industry and how many illegals are on our roadways. Everybody, keep your head on a swivel. Be careful, because there are so many people on our roadways with commercial driver's license or regular driver's license. They can't even read the road signs. They don't even know. They can't speak English. They have no idea. This is a travesty. And there are so many people working hard to stop this. But then the left comes along and says, well, you're only doing it because you're racist or whatever. It's like, no, we want people to enjoy the benefits of safety and security. We care about our neighbors enough to do the hard things. And, it's hard. Love is not, you don't tell your kids when you're raising them, just go do whatever you want. Go ahead and put your hand on that hot stove. Go ahead and run around until you're lost. Go ahead and eat whatever food you want. We don't say that. As if we're loving parents, we put limits, we put boundaries, and that's what we need to do here in our nation. And that's what we need to do to make sure that we do reclaim and preserve America and preserve those freedoms and those values that made America great. There is a reason that over decades and, since the history of our nation, that people have come here for freedom. Now, I'd like to say in the last administration, in the Biden administration, people didn't necessarily come here for freedom. Some did. Thousands did. Okay. However, there were millions that came in because they were invited in to bring destruction and to vote and to really flip our nation from the inside out. So we cannot allow this to happen. And if we truly love our neighbor as Christians, if we truly are walking out our faith and our convictions to say we want to protect life, we want to protect property, we want to protect our ability to flourish and have freedom, then we will do the hard things. We will have the hard conversations, and we will stand up for what's right. So
absolutely. I wanted to mention this before anybody starts with me. My daughter-in-law is from Russia. She came in the right way. She was actually, my son married into a most wonderful family. Much better people than we are, Linda. These folks are great. And so what happened is they went to Russia to adopt a baby. And this is years ago, like several decades ago. And so there was a little girl who was walking around with the administrator. And by the way, the folks said that this place looked not very much better than a chicken house. It was a terrible looking place. And then two little girls were walking around. And so Debbie just asked the administrator, who are these little girls? And she said, they're sisters to the baby you're going to be adopting. Now, this is several decades ago. You can't do this now. But they just wanted to get rid of them. So she said they go to the hotel room that night. She said, Jim, you know what I want to do? And he said, yeah, but we got to stop with 3. We can't take every kid in the orphanage. We'll do the 3 if they'll let us. Well, they did. They brought back all 3. Long story short, my daughter-in-law is an American citizen. No one gets more upset than she does at people who are just upsetting the apple cart by coming in illegally.
Yes.
Getting all these benefits and all this stuff that she's had to work hard for. By the way, she knows more American history than most Americans know. And so she understands, she totally gets it, why you would not want to live in a communist country. And she said, I don't know how to tell people. She said, because I've lived there and these people don't understand. They think it's this utopia. It's this wonderful place to live in a communist country, and it is not a good place to live. Mm-hmm. She feels so much freedom from being here in the United States. And in her mind, she just can't, she don't understand why people don't understand it. Now she's really good with the Russian language, okay? But she does not expect us to learn how to speak Russian. She talks total English, and better at it than most people are, by the way. And she's just a wonderful place in our family. I can't imagine the family without Larissa in it. Mm-hmm. I just can't. But I said this, and I think I shared this with you off air. One of the biggest reasons we decided to move back to the Carolinas is we were feeling pretty unsafe, the area that we were living in Alabama. We had a farm, discovered a meth lab on our land. That ticked us off. No help from the local authorities, none at all. We were really worried about safety. We were walking around guns all the time. Well, my son finds out about this, and he and Larissa say, you're moving back to the Carolinas. And I said, I don't want to move ever again. I hate moving. But I feel so much safer here. I mean, it's just so much better. So what you're seeing is not only folks from the north moving down to some of the southern areas, you're seeing a lot of folks who are trying to escape it from the south. Mm-hmm. You're ridden with the crazy laws. The next town up was just overridden by Haitians who did not want to follow the laws. And I know there's some good people who come to America, but there are warriors that are coming in here that are not looking out for the betterment of the American citizens and a better way for their own selves.
That brings up something. We are recording this actually on Monday, March 2nd. I know it's not going to air today, but by the time it airs, we will know what happened with an election tomorrow in Texas. In March 3rd in Texas, there's a Republican primary on the Republican primary ballot. There's also a proposition on that Texas ballot. Okay? And Proposition 10 says that they do not want to have Sharia law in Texas. So for your listeners who maybe have heard about Sharia law, they don't really know what it's about or something, I'm just going to give this website right now, and I'm going to give it again. It's not my website. It's and I get nothing by promoting it other than to educate people, but bansharia.com. So BANSHARIA, bansharia.com. You talked about the Haitians who don't want to follow the law. You talked about the meth lab. We just have such an influx of foreign intervention and engagement and intrusion into our nation, trying to topple us from within.
Yes.
Now, the Islamic regime has stated very, very clearly that they want to take over America. The number of mosques, all people have to do is just search how many new mosques are growing every single month. And a mosque is not like we think of a church. A mosque can house all their guns. They get their training, their schools. There's a lot happening in these Islamic mosques. Now, I do want to clarify that this is not racist. It is not even against Muslims. We love the person. We hate the sin. It's the Islamic ideology. It is their push for jihad against anyone who disagrees with them. And now we see, even now, we've already had terrorist attacks on our soil. This is, like I said, it's March 2nd. We just recently had Operation Epic Fury start, and we've already had attacks on our soil where Americans have lost lives. And these sleeper cells around, I really encourage your listeners, like I said before, keep your head on a swivel. Be very, very alert. I know the FBI, the Homeland Security, put out alerts saying you want to be really mindful, because during the Biden administration, millions came in. Millions of fighting age men. I remember watching day after day after day, seeing from China, from Iran, from all these places where people were coming in to our border, these fighting age men. And it's horrible. Now, the other thing, they're not only here ready to inflict harm on American citizens, they are scattered all over the country. They are in your neighborhood. They are in my neighborhood. They are in every city. They are everywhere. So we have got to be alert citizens, not be, never judge a person by their skin color or their clothing or anything. We should never judge a person by that. Okay? However, we need to be mindful citizens. So just like you would be mindful and careful about any suspicious activity in your neighborhood, regardless of
anyone.
Yeah. You want to be alert and aware of what's happening, but we need to realize that their desire is to destroy us. That's
what they live for. It's destroy. We're not good people in their eyes. Listen to a commercial break, and we're going to return just as soon as we can. I'm going to get more info from you, Linda. We'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lemonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lemons you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lemons Mexican Restaurant.
This is U.S. Senate candidate Don Brown. This race for the United States Senate in North Carolina is a race of we the people versus they the establishment. The Constitution's first three words are not we the establishment, but we the people. And because of our great grassroots conservatives in North Carolina, I'm pleased to say that we have the establishment candidate that's being rammed down our throats by big money, Mike Whatley. We've got him on the run. As a matter of fact, within the last few days, the Whatley campaign appears to have spent millions on television ads going into a primary race, and even has enlisted the AFP, which is an anti-Trump organization, to go knock on doors for him. Our Democrat opponent, Roy Cooper, has not having to do this. Why? Because Roy's got no competition. We're about to take Whatley out. I need everybody to keep it up. Please go to the polls if you haven't. And if you have gone to the polls, please encourage others to go as well. We will win this by force multiplication. Also, while we don't have to raise all the money that Whatley has raised, we got to raise enough to stay in a boxing ring. So please consider donating to our campaign. You can go to brown4nc.com and just hit the donate button. But above all else, get to the polls, get your friends and family members to the polls, and everyone you know, Don Brown for the United States Senate. This campaign will be a victory for we the people and a victory for the United States Constitution. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. And continue sending email. It makes my day. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. Linda Hansen is with me right now. Love having Linda on the show. The truth comes out. Absolutely does. I wanted to say something, and I would like for you to address liberal women, okay, who seem to be okay with the way women are treated in the other world there with I can't believe that you are a woman, a champion of women, and you're okay with men playing in women's sports. You're okay with Sharia law, where if a man and woman have an affair, I'll just put it to you this way, in a lot of cases that are documented, by the way, the woman is the one who suffers. The woman is the one who's dug into a hole with only her head showing, and they will stone the woman to death. Okay, you're women's lib person, and you're okay with those things, and you're okay with that part of the world taking over our country. How do you want to address that?
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. You talk about these liberal, it's not just liberal women, but it's liberal men too. And I would say it goes back to what my passion is education, educating voters to be able to see what their rights are and how to protect them. They don't even understand. This is such an uneducated populace when it comes to how to protect rights and what they are, and to be brainwashed. I've talked on your show before about how was it that people were convinced to murder all the Jews? It's the same way that people are being convinced to hate people now. It's mass formation psychosis. They use fear, they use repetitive messaging, they use division, everything to divide. Now we need to go back to and remember, let's go back to the source of all this. Mm-hmm. The source of all this is in the Garden of Eden. The source of all this is nothing new. This is exactly the same playbook, just with different players on the chessboard. Okay. Then, every time in history, it seems like we have to get to these times in history where we get reminded that we are truly in a battle between good and evil. So there are going to be people who are deceived. There are going to be people who suffer, innocent people who suffer. And there are going to be people who just are absolutely beyond evil. We see so much of it. Like you said, how can these people here in America, while we also, after the leader in Iran and Epic Fury began, you had many millions of people in the streets all over the world celebrating this, and it was great to see. It does my heart good to see people all over the world dancing to YMCA and have flags, American flags and stuff, and realizing that something really exciting happened here. This was a shift. We have literally shifted the landscape in the Middle East and bringing peace. Now that's huge. That's also very biblical, and that's a whole nother thing to get into. But you just look at the inability for some people to understand the common sense. Like you mentioned, it's like, how can they be for women's rights and say it's okay for guys to be in girls' locker rooms? How can they be for women's rights and say it's okay to support Sharia law, where not only, like some of the things you mentioned, but we're talking child brides. Not only, like we saw in Iran, where, they would put acid in women's eyes if they didn't wear a hijab, if that's how I pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly all the time correctly. But, you see after the bombing started to take place and women in Iran were so excited they could wear normal clothes. I'm old enough to remember Iran before this regime took over. My uncle used to work in Iran. And I remember when he got sent out of the country and we were all afraid for him. I also know my husband was in the military and he had just gotten out when the Iranian hostages were still there. And so we were on alert because he was in inactive reserves, but it was still for like a period of 2 years or so. I think it was, he had to be ready to go if needed. So we were on alert whether he would have to go to Iran. And so younger people, they don't remember. They don't know these things. They don't understand the human toll that is taken by these policies. And where it seems so benign when it comes to our tax policy or this or that or something, you start to look at what's the logical outcome of all of these policies. What's the logical outcome of giving government more control? What's the logical outcome of an uneducated citizenry? What's the logical outcome? You talked about women of having boys in girls' locker rooms. Well, duh. What's the logical outcome of allowing children to be mutilated or washed into believing they're born in the wrong bodies? What's the logical outcome? What's the logical outcome of continuous media push that says anybody who supports this president or this administration is a Nazi, a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, every other phobe? What is the logical outcome? You are going to have division. And so much has happened in families, in businesses, in communities. And anytime you divide a nation against itself, it cannot stand. So I implore people, please seek unity. Seek unity first with Jesus Christ. Go back to the source. Go back to Jesus. But then look at our Constitution. It has held us together for 250 years. Don't let anything happen to our Constitution. It's not perfect. Our leaders, our government leaders are not perfect. We are not perfect citizens. But if we can agree on the main things, keep the main things, hopefully 250 years from now, our descendants will still live in freedom and maybe even have more so than we have right now.
Well, we're at a crucial point right now, but we have to use common sense. Okay. So let's just say this. Let's just say that back in the world where I worked at GTE again, Okay, and what I'm talking about is when President Obama sent guns, money, all this stuff to Iran back a few years ago. So let's just say common sense. Okay, so let's pretend I'm working now with GTE again. Okay, my competitor at that time her name was Jan, and by the way, she and I were friends. But anyway, her name was Jan, and she worked for AT&T. Okay, now I would definitely send folks over to Jan if I didn't have the coverage my customer needed. I would do that. But let me tell you this, I grew respect with my customers. So just as soon as we got the coverage, well, then they would come back to me because they remembered I didn't lie to them. I told them the truth. I just don't have it. You're going to be mad at me if you get a cell phone from me. Right. Now, another thing is I would not have supported Jan with extra money to advertise herself. I would not have done that because I had my own self and my own company that I had to take care, not her country of AT&T. While I was kind to Jan and I would send customers that I couldn't take care of, I did not send guns and ammunition so that she could blow my company up into smithereens by taking over. I did not send money her way for advertisement. It's that simple. Linda, it's that simple.
It is, yes.
What in the world was President Obama thinking about? Could we get inside his head just a little bit? Was this part of, if we can, was this part of a grand plan for the future?
Well, I can't get inside of anybody's head. I have enough trouble with my own. So
let's just use common sense.
Yeah, right, common sense. But I think there's going to be a lot of truth coming out over the near future. And I would, for all his flaws, which President Trump does have them, just like we all do, for all his flaws, I have to hand it to this man because he plays 5D chess.
I do too.
And so, this is not, Israel sucking us into another war. It's, we took out China's, I just made some notes here, China's top 2 oil suppliers. Okay. We look at what China has been doing. China has interfered with our elections. This has been proven, even though that if I say this, there'll be people who say, oh, you're an election denier, but you follow the truth. Follow the investigations day after day, year after year, year after year. And everyone, you can go to an election integrity network.org, I think it is, but just find Election Integrity Network and you'll start to be able to see everything. You can look back on things. You can see why did they go raid Georgia and get the ballots from Georgia? You can start to see what has been going on, the foreign involvement in our elections, all these things. I mean, all of this is connected. And it's connected to wanting to take down and destroy the United States. So, we talked about in the past on your show, and I think on other interviews have done the Red-Green Alliance, where you've got the communists and the Islamists together. And, they're the friend of my enemy is my friend, right? And so they have aligned it together, okay, to destroy the United States. So, I mean, the Chinese Communist Party, we must stand up to that and topple it in the sense to not only help the Chinese people be free, but help our nation. Mm-hmm. And we have to stop our dependence on China. We have to stop our dependence on these foreign nations. So the fact that we've become energy independent, the fact that we have reshoring of manufacturing here, the fact that we have trillions of dollars of investment in the U.S., these are beautiful things to strengthen our nation. But as we look, with taking out Maduro in Venezuela, and it wasn't a regime change war, it wasn't that. Venezuelans have their job to do to take care of their country, right? But taking out of Maduro there is huge. Now, that's a big connection to China's oil. Okay. Now we've got Iran, another big connection, China and Russians' oil. So took out China's top 2 oil suppliers in less than 60 days. They desperately need this oil to continue their geopolitical rise. So not only that, this is something that people, I think there isn't enough information for people. Well, there's a lot of information. I would say American citizens have become complacent, and we have wanted to learn by short memes or headlines instead of digging into issues. It takes time to be an engaged citizen. Just like it takes time to learn anything. If you want to be an engineer, you have to study. If you want to play piano, you have to study. You want to be a good parent, you need to learn. You want to, whatever it is, you want to learn how to be a chef, you have to study. Mm-hmm. I think we have done our nation a disservice by taking out citizenship understanding and this basic understanding of our government into the schools. I spoke with an old friend just this last weekend, and she's been a principal and a teacher in public schools for many, many years. And she said, these things that I teach in my Prosperity 101 curriculum, my Prosperity 101 break room economics course, please, business leaders, reach out to me. I'd love to license my course to you for work in your workplace. But she said that these are things that can't go into public school. It's not part of Common Core. It's not, if it's not going to be part of the STEM or the test, they don't teach it. So there's only so much time in the day. So they're not taught basic citizenship. They're not taught basic history. They're just not taught. So no wonder they're in the streets protesting the very things that gave them the freedom to protest. Mm-hmm. So then what? It's up to us. It's up to us. I can tell you there are a lot of times that, I think, well, I'd rather go do something else, go on a vacation or do something else than consistently work and try to educate people about freedom. But if we don't, who will? And to you employers out there, I'm saying to you, if you don't, who will? Who will? So I'm going to put a plug in for these employers and just saying, I want you to get engaged, whether you use my resources or not. I want you to get engaged. And would I love to serve you and have you use my resources? Yes. So a first step would be to go to my website, prosperity101.com, take the pledge. There'll be a spot at the top. It says pledge or take the pledge. Go to that page. You'll see it'll say Employers Unleashed. My goal is to unleash the power of employers to reclaim and preserve America through this simple education. So take the pledge. One, there's 3 points. You believe that our Judeo-Christian values made this nation great.
Absolutely. Linda, we have to go into another commercial break.
I'll finish. I'd love to tell the pledge after the break and help people understand why it's so important.
Let's do it. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television Radio Podcast and social media talk show. Thank you again so much for watching. I have Linda with me right now. Linda, before we get started, I just wanted to say there's a lot of folks who are worried about what's happening in the future. And I think this probably stems from maybe trusting the government a little bit more than trusting God.
Exactly.
But I wanted to do a shout out, one of our new sponsors, and that's Lowe's. It's located right here in Greenwood, South Carolina. So they are helping me with some gardening segments. A lot of you have asked for those. And go shop with Lowe's. I'm just telling you, the guy here, Tommy Ross, is my contact person there. And Tommy, thank you so much for what you want to do to spread the news that people can actually live for their own self. They don't have to depend on the government for anything. And there's some kind of a freedom that comes from just doing stuff. And I know it's hard work. You've talked about that, Linda. It's hard work to do the right thing. But you know what? The payoff is absolutely amazing. So I want to say thank you again to Lowe's for everything you're doing to help me get that word out. Prosperity 101. And it's a great thing. People need to be associated with this. A little bit more talk about that.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you to your sponsors and to Lowe's promoting gardening too. And that's just great. But thank you to all your sponsors. But yes, Prosperity 101, before the break, I was talking about this pledge I have on my website. Basically, step one is you believe in the Judeo-Christian values that made this nation great. Basically, the American values, that made this nation great. 2, you believe they should be supported and defended. Okay. Number 3, you'll do one thing in your workplace. I'm not asking you to change the world. I'm saying you will do one thing in your workplace to help educate others in your workplace, your employees, or maybe your coworkers, to understand about those values that made America great. So if people go on there to prosperity101.com and they take the pledge, they will automatically get some free resources. I have some free ebooks, some information there that they will have for free. It doesn't cost you anything to do this. You'll get some free resources. That's great. Now, if they'd like to take it a step further, I do have an online course and a curriculum, a full curriculum, everything that employers can use in the workplace. And I license this to employers. Some use it, one per month with an added 2 or 3 minutes of their own comments. Some use it as a lunch and learn each week. Some use it as an all-day seminar. However you'd like to use it. Some use it just as independent study. They offer it and let people go use it as independent study. So I would love to talk to any of your business leaders about how they could bring that to their workplace. But in addition, I have a book. I have a weekly podcast. It was weekly this year, just due to some health things. And I'm also writing another book. So I had to, juggle my schedule again. Right now it's every other week, but mostly it's every week. But right now it's every other week podcast. But I've been doing that for 5.5 years to help people connect the dots for all sorts of issues, whether it be immigration, like we've been talking about, national security, the economy, taxation, pro-life issues, the cultural issues, school choice, family issues, everything, and how it all connects into our freedom and our way of life here in America. This is one of the things that is so critically important. You mentioned before how independence, like we want to be independent. Our wealth, our prosperity does not come from government, just like our freedom doesn't come from government. Our rights do not come from government. And government has nothing until we give it to them first. And unfortunately, much of our citizenry does not understand that. So that's part of what we try to help. We can't have anything unless we have healthy businesses that help the economy going, and healthy businesses, healthy families. We need to make sure we have healthy families. One of the other things I'm doing with Prosperity 101, and I invite people to contact me about this. We'd love to have you join our Employers Unleashed community. It's something I just started this year, and it is a monthly webinar series where we go through the 7 mountains of culture, okay, which are, if you think of our mountains of culture, our areas of culture, I believe, as many do, that Christians and conservatives, we have just surrendered these mountains of culture into the godless leftist ideology. So we've got business, we've got family, media, arts and entertainment, government and military, religion, education, these mountains of culture that are so just foundational to our culture in every way. But business intersects every single area. Business intersects every single area. So we're taking a mountain of culture each month and exploring how business leaders, especially Christian business leaders, can impact that mountain of culture. So we look at it overview, but then every single mountain of culture. And this is something that every business can take part in. So please contact me, become part of that community. We'd love to have you. Go to Prosperity 101, take the pledge, become part of the community. And, iron sharpens iron. It's a small but growing group. And I'm really excited about it because there are people who are very committed to making a difference in their workplace, in their community, and for our nation.
Let's talk for a few minutes about the conflict that's coming on with us right now. Do you agree with the way President Trump is handling the situation right now? There are things we don't know yet, but I put my trust first in God, but I just feel like his hands are on Trump. What are your thoughts?
In all of history, we've always had imperfect people who have been used by God.
Yeah.
And in amazing ways. And I don't love foreign engagement. I don't love foreign military engagement. I don't love it, but I do feel like this has just reset the Middle East. Since 1979, I am old enough to remember, I mentioned that before. I am old enough to remember the Iranian hostage crisis. I remember Beirut. I remember all the times Iran has attacked American citizens. And don't think it's just overseas. We just talked about terrorist attacks here on our home soil. So to stand by and do nothing would be wrong. And I do feel that the fact that they've gone in strong, they've gone in hard, they're looking to have this be short term. I pray it will not be endless. I pray for American life. We've already lost 4 service members. And so we pray for their families in their loss. That's just horrendous. And for those who are injured, we pray for quick healing, recovery. We pray for safety for our troops. But going and fighting for freedom there. The other thing that has been really exciting is this Board of Peace. The Board of Peace that has come together under President Trump and the realignment of these Middle Eastern countries. And I find it very interesting that Iran went and bombed all these other countries. Well, of course, then they're binding together. I mean, they're coming together against a common enemy, which is Iran. And so it's very interesting. It's like the whole Middle Eastern landscape of politics is shifting, and it has to. This has been a regime of terror. Mm-hmm. We recently killed 30,000 of their own citizens. This has been a regime of terror. So it has to be reset. And I'm thankful for it. I'm concerned for our service members. I'm concerned, of course, and I'm not a war expert or a domestic policy, a foreign policy expert, but I am thrilled to see that we are standing for freedom. And when you talked earlier about women's rights, I remember what Iran was like before this regime took over. Mm-hmm. And if we can upset the apple cart there and start to upset the profitability of China and China's advancement on the world, on Taiwan, on the U.S., their influence into the U.S., if we can upset these ties with the Mexican drug cartels and things, the flow of money, this is so much more than people realize. You start to dig into this and there is a money flow. There is, a definite money flow. And the cartels aren't just drug runners. We're talking big money across nations, big syndicates across nations. They're all connected. And to be able to stop things, to stop that progress is huge. And I think this is a big play that will, it's just like so often when bold presidents did things that were unpopular at the time. But 20, 30, 50 years later, you see that this was what saved a nation and saved millions of lives. So I pray that that would be so.
Let me ask you another question. And this is pertaining to what I'm seeing in our own United States. There are people who are out there protesting. And one I thought was pretty interesting. So I don't think they knew what they were protesting for, because there were several different signs these people were holding up. And it was like they were confused as to what event they needed to be at to protest at.
Yeah, protest du jour. Yes.
You can see that. Okay, so but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of the protesters we have in the United States who don't get it. But I'm talking about the citizens of Iran who are just like you mentioned earlier, they're holding American flags. They're like so appreciative. Yeah. So what has happened to the appreciation in our own country? I mean, where you're not relieved that citizens, they're happy.
Yes.
These folks, I mean, they're happy, but then we have citizens here who want to protest it. It makes no sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make sense, but it goes back to what I said. We haven't had the education. There has not been the civic education within our citizenry to help them understand how to value their freedom. They do not know. They also have not been taught to critically think. So parents out there, I would say homeschool your kids.
Yes.
School your kids. And even at that, culture can get to them. I will tell you, social media, one of the things we need to really pray about is that truth finds its way into the minds and hearts of these people all over, because like I mentioned, mass formation psychosis. Now you have, social media targeting. You mentioned liberal women, but earlier you mentioned the liberal, like some people would call them the Karens, not to disparage any Karen out there. I have lots of, but whatever. I don't know where that term even came from, but people know what I'm talking about. Okay? Uh-huh. And it's like there is through social media, behavioral understanding and the data mining and everything, people know exactly who to contact and exactly what message to contact. You see it every time you think, oh, I'm going to buy new garden seeds for my garden. I think I'll buy tomatoes. And then the next time you open up your computer or your phone, there's an ad for tomatoes. And, this is it. But the other thing is they know exactly who to target. And a lot of times these are maybe emotionally lonely, unstable. Maybe they're dealing with their own trauma. Maybe, this hatred for Trump, it feeds, it's beyond normal. It is beyond normal. It goes way beyond dislike of a political person or leader. It's beyond normal. We've never really had a time in our society where we, people aren't talking to family members. They're not talking to neighbors. They're, based on someone's political affiliation. Mm-hmm. I mean, not to this degree. It's always happened, of course, because division is sin, and we're all sinners, but not to this degree. And this is just so unnatural. Well, it is also very planned. And these protests you talk about, they are so well funded. People can look up, I think his name, Neville Singham, Singham. Singham. He has funded a lot of them. There's all the Soros funding, all of these NGOs, non-government operations that have funded and funded and funded these things, the messaging for these protests, the signs. Before things happen, the signs are already printed and they're ready to go. The people are
this. You can always tell when it's one of those groups, because they even have the same umbrellas over the. I mean, it's the same color. It's the same everything over and over again. 1 minute left in this segment.
1 minute left in this segment. Follow the money. That's
that easy.
Money. Do your homework and follow the money, because you will find truth when you follow the money.
Okay, now, Linda, more ways companies can get in contact with you, the website again. It's right there under her, but what is the website?
Prosperity101.com, prosperity101.com. Please get in touch with me. I'd love to work with you and help you to educate your workplace on basic American civics and freedom and how they can become an informed, involved, and impactful employee. We can have lobbyists in Washington for every industry, but the best lobbyists are the individual citizens who make a difference by acting on their own behalf and on behalf of freedom.
I wanted to mention one other thing before we close. This is to my liberal women friends who are, I am woman, hear me roar. Be a woman and roar for other women in other countries too.
Yes.
That would be very nice of you to do that because they need a freedom too. Absolutely.
And children and grandchildren to grow up in freedom.
Absolutely. Linda, thank you so much for being on the show with me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely appreciate it. Continue sending email. I love them. Donna@donnasedge.com, Donna@donnasedge.com. And we'll be seeing you again very soon.